Hello friends and fellow book lovers, it's Hannah here from Squire's Shelf, putting up my first video since September. I apologise, it's been really busy here, so yeah, I haven't had a chance, but today I'm going to do a Christmas book haul. All the books that I bought for myself and were bought for me for Christmas I thought I'd share. This is not a bragging video, it's just I really want to share what I got and what I'm going to be reading in 2021, and please do put in the comments any recommendations of books that you've received for Christmas or that you think I should read. That would be really helpful. First, I just want to quickly say why I haven't uploaded since September. I am really committed to this channel and to talking more about kind of books I love, books I've read, books I even don't like but have read, to share more. As everyone has all over the world been dealing with COVID, the coronavirus and that situation, it's been a difficult time. My dad is actually part of the vulnerable category. He has quite severe kidney disease, so he's had some issues. He hasn't had, thank goodness, has not contracted COVID, but he's just been having some issues with his health generally, so that's just been a bit stressful. Also, I started on a lighter note, on a positive note. In September, I started an MA in English Literature at the University of Birmingham, part-time. So trying to fit that around full-time working as well has been, taken up a lot of time, but I'm really glad to be doing that. I've wanted to go back and study for quite a number of years, and I did actually, a few years ago now, I applied and got a place to study women's literature at St Andrews University in Scotland, but at that time I just got the assistant curator job with the National Trust and really kind of wanted to pursue this wonderful opportunity, so I didn't take that. And I thought, well, at the moment it was a last minute decision really. I didn't apply till early September, so really last minute, but I've wanted to go back and study for a while. I studied art history undergraduate for my masters, because I came to Birmingham and fell in love with the Barber Art Gallery and the incredible collection there. If you're ever in the area, it's just the most amazing collection. So I was going to do that, and then I just thought when I turned 30 this year, I was like, no, I really kind of want to pursue English literature again. And I wasn't sure what's happening with my job, but I thought if I am made redundant, it's great to kind of have this something to do, and positive to be kind of working towards, and just learning more. So I thought I would do that. Also, so with work, because I said there's been sort of the threat of redundancy. It's the same with, all heritage organisations and, lots of other places of work. There's been that. So I've had 5 interviews over sort of November, December time, and that's a lot of, preparation and the stress of actually having the interviews on Zoom, and then afterwards the adrenaline rush. So that's taken up a lot of time. So yeah, and just generally I think feelings of anxiety. My anxiety really flares up when it comes to uncertainty. I think it's the worst thing. Long-term uncertainty, not knowing where I'm going, not knowing what I'm doing, not knowing that I have a positive trajectory. It's been really difficult for me. And then also, on another positive note, I've started doing a lot of wild swimming. Wild swimming just means kind of swimming outdoors in nature, in lakes and rivers, in the sea, reservoirs. So I've been doing that quite a lot and just trying to really focus on my mental health and mindfulness. And then in December, my sister and I did a 12 Swims of Christmas charity swimming event, and we raised just over £2,000, which was amazing, for 3 really important local charities. So that was really great. So we swam every day for 12 days, and I started wild swimming in the summer, and it's something I haven't done in the winter before, so it's definitely cold, but I've really enjoyed. I love swimming, so that's been a really great experience. So that took up 12 days in a row and trying to work around it was a bit difficult, but it's great. But I'm still keeping that up and swimming sort of 1 or 2 days a week. So yeah, I've been busy with other things, but I'm really committed to this channel. I'm going to try and upload, I am, my New Year's resolution to upload a video a week. So book reviews, books I'm interested in, books I really liked, books I didn't, book challenges I'm taking part in. So last year, for Goodreads, I actually smashed my target, unlike usually where I just about meet it or don't quite. I managed to read 78 books, mainly because I wanted to read, I think it was 60, mainly because I was furloughed for 11 weeks. So I got a lot of reading during that time, and reading I find so as a lot of people do, so kind of immersive, and a way to be able to travel and meet new people when you can't do that in person. So anyway, sorry, I should get on to the books that I got for Christmas. So first of all, I'll start with, I did buy myself 3 books. I always think it's self-indulgent to buy yourself a present, but I'm really trying to focus on a practice of self-care, and to focus on myself and my self-esteem. So one of the books I got myself was Walking Distance. So it's written and illustrated by Lizzie Stewart. Lizzie Stewart was introduced to me by a friend of mine, Naomi Ralph, who is also an incredible illustrator, an artist. And I came across this book, Walking Distance. So it talks about Lizzie's experiences walking, particularly in London, but in a metropolis as a woman, how you kind of navigate that space, how you occupy that space, how the geography of a space affects you, memory. Yes, there's a beautiful, there you can see coloured illustrations, and then there's also some really lovely black and white as well, and it looks at kind of mental health, nature, in urban spaces. So yeah, it was a really beautiful, thoughtful book that I loved. Very different theme. The second book I bought myself is called Band Sinister by KJ Charles. This was actually a recommendation on Instagram. I saw somebody else had read. I love kind of Regency romances. I know there's a bit of snobbery around them, but I think they're beautiful pieces. You know, I love, there's a lot of patriarchal, oh, this is just chick lit, I hate that word, piece, but I really am interested in reading this. It's also an LGBTQ romance, so I tend to read Georgette Heyer, so it's nice to kind of see a non-heterosexual romance taking the foreground. So this is Sir Philip Rockwood, The Disgrace of the County, and Guy Frisbee and their love affair, so I'm really looking forward to reading that. And then the last book I got myself on another completely different theme. So I'm an art historian, I studied art history at university, and this is an exhibition guide, a beautiful exhibition guide to the solo, well, I don't think it was it is really a solo exhibition, but it does feature other artists' work, but it's focused on Artemisia Gentileschi, which is on at the National Gallery. Artemisia Gentileschi is one of my favourite artists of all time. She's a Baroque Italian artist. I went to an exhibition of hers in Rome a few years ago. I specifically went to Rome to see it because I had never seen, you know, many pieces of her work altogether. And then I was so excited early last year to see there's going to be an exhibition of her work at the National Gallery in London. Unfortunately, so I was meant to go late December. I thought I'd book a ticket for after I'd finished work and I could just go and have the day in London and spend quite a bit of time in there. Obviously, with the shutdown and the tears lockdown, that didn't happen. So I rebooked very optimistically for later in this week. I think I booked for January the 7th because I'm off this week. I'm not back at work till next week. I thought I'll go then. That's not going to happen. But I bought myself for Christmas the exhibition guide. Really beautiful, different essays from different writers just talking a bit about her. The reason that they're holding the exhibition at the National Gallery is a few years ago they acquired this beautiful, it's the painting here on the left, self-portrait of Artemisia Gentileschi to the collection, and it's one of only, I think it's the 21st artwork by a woman in the whole of the National Gallery's collection in London. But I was really glad to see they acquired it, and there's some great videos actually on YouTube of the restoration of that piece if you're interested in art like I am. So I can't wait to kind of read all of this and kind of see which artworks they talk about. So yeah, so those are the ones I got myself. My sister's girlfriend very kindly got me this book, which is Dash and Lily's Book of Dares. So it's a fiction novel. There is a Netflix series, so I became obsessed with the Netflix series. So it's a Christmas series about Dash and Lily, teenagers who fall in love, and it's set at mainly at the Strand bookstore in New York. I've never been to New York, but I really want to visit this bookstore now. And Lily, with the help of her brother, writes in a notebook which she leaves on the bookshelf in the Strand various instructions. Dash picks it up, finds it, and they sort of have this romance through letters, through words. And when I discovered there's actually a series of novels, Grace very kind, it was hard to track down, apparently it's sold out in lots of places, tracked down the first novel for me, so I'm really looking forward to reading that. So then my sister Beth also, this was another complete surprise. So I mentioned that I'd be doing quite a lot of wild swimming. She got me this really lovely, very thoughtful wild swimming book by Danielle Start, about various places around the UK that are great for wild swimming. So I've had a quick look at Shropshire, where I am, to see the places it recommends, and then hopefully next year I'll be able to go further afield and discover more places. So that's so thoughtful. The other books I'm now going to mention, these are all for my mum and dad. So some of them are ones I asked for on my wish list, some of the ones they got me. It's actually the most amount of books I've ever got for Christmas, so it's fabulous. But the first piece I want to mention is not actually a book. So last year it was the bicentenary of Anne Bronte's birth, and one of the famous Bronte sisters. So also you got Charlotte and Emily. And my last video I filmed at I filmed actually up in Yorkshire at Ponton Hall when I went, and so I actually managed to go to the exhibition last year, very luckily, and kind of see the exhibition all about Anne Bronte's life and her artwork and her novels particularly, and her letters. And my mom very kindly, I'd saw these but didn't buy one for myself. Lindsay Tyson, the artist, created these beautiful brooches. So if you can see, it's a shell which she's painted from Scarborough Beach. So Scarborough is where Anne Bronte, Scarborough is where she's buried, and it's got just some beautiful handwriting in there as well. And I'd seen these but didn't get one, so that was a complete surprise. And just so my mom is so thoughtful with gifts. Beautiful. The other books my mum got me, so in my stocking, I still get a stocking at 30, bless her, she got me this poetry book which I'd never heard of, never read. It's very difficult with me. I can understand buying books for me is an absolute nightmare, because I've read a lot and I've got a lot of books that I'm reading or going to read, so it can be a nightmare. But I've never heard of this. It's poems about being a woman, so geographical spread, and also from all different eras as well. So it starts with Sappho, the poet. We go through to Emily Dickinson, to Margaret Atwood, and it's just a really beautiful collection of most of the poems I hadn't read before. So it's lovely, and there's some beautiful illustrations as well in it. So this is the first book I've read actually in 2021, and it was really great. I definitely recommend it, and it's just a lovely object in its own right. These next books my mum got me are on a theme around sort of mindfulness, good mental health practice, living a kind of slower, more engaged life. This one I hadn't actually heard of. It came from Jeffrey and Grace, an Instagram account, which I hadn't heard of, but I've since signed up to. And it's called Seeking Slow, Reclaim Moments of Calm in Your Day by Melanie Barnes. And this is all about, as the title suggests, about living a more mindful life. It's about what do you prioritise, how do you spend your time, and how you can look at having a better and closer connection to family and friends, to people you love, to the natural world, how you can kind of disengage or detach when you need to from the pressures of modern life. And it's beautifully illustrated with some great photographs as well. So this is an example of one of them. So yeah, I hadn't heard of this, but my mum saw this and it was such a great present. So I've just started reading this and I can't wait to finish it. So I mentioned about the wild swimming all through the winter. The other day I went and it was about 2 degrees, so yeah, freezing, but I'm really kind of embracing the cold, loving it. I'm also still, I think the bell tent I got for my birthday is featured in these videos, and I'm still living in that, even though we've had snow here in England, snow here in Shropshire particularly, and ice. I have to admit, there's a few nights that I have come inside and slept indoors in my bedroom. I have to say I'm voluntarily in the tent. It's purely my decision. I love being outdoors. I love waking up to the sound of birds and nature. We live in the countryside in the middle of nowhere, so you don't get, lots of the noise of cities, which I'm, very privileged to have. It's a beautiful setting here and I love it. And my main present I got for Christmas was the log burn of my parents in there. So it is nice and warm a lot of the time, but I haven't been in there all the time. But this preamble is leading to the book that my mum got me, the Wim Hof Method. So I'm kind of embracing, really actually enjoying the cold, which I never thought I'd admit. This photo on the back kind of sums him up. I hadn't heard of him till I've had a few friends and family members message me and email me and been like, oh, have you heard of this guy? And I hadn't. But I'm really interested to learn more about how he embraces the cold, particularly, you know, really cold temperatures, how he uses this as a motivation for good physical and mental health. So I'm really looking forward to reading that. So that's another non-fiction book I got quite a few actually non-fiction books this year. This third book that I did ask for is Kate Humble, A Year of Living Simply, The Joys of a Life Less Complicated. If you're in the UK or maybe further abroad, you might have heard of this is Kate Humble. She's a TV presenter, a writer, and a really just an all-round wonderful woman. And I read last year her book about walking. It's called Thinking on My Feet, that's it, about how people have over the centuries used walking, getting outside, as a great way to problem solve, a great way to sort your thoughts. And this is just another book she's written specifically about. So she has a small holding in Wales, a farm, and how she's kind of embraced slowing down and living a simpler life. So I'm really interested in this. I'm really interested in changing my life and changing what I prioritise. So this is going to be a really great book for me. A very similar theme, Kate Flanders' Adventures in Opting Out. So she wrote The Year of Less. And this is really, so it's a field guide to leading an intentional life. Once again, looking at, in the modern world, what barriers we put between ourselves and having healthy mental health, and put between ourselves and nature, and between what we want and what we want to achieve and our goals, and how we sort of fit into the pattern that's already been carved out for us. I think I've not read this yet, but that's from reading the blurb on the back. So another great book I'm looking forward to reading. I didn't realise actually how many of these are looking at changing your life. I think this 2020, I don't know if you found this, but has been a real reckoning for me. I've been really thinking about, okay, who am I? Who do I want to be? What do I want to do with, you know, the limited amount of time we all have on this planet? So yeah, that's a bit deep. This book I don't think I'd heard of. I think my mum found this for me. It's called Tough Women, Adventure Stories. So it features stories written by different women, edited by Jenny Tough, great name for this kind of book. And it's stories of grit, courage and determination. So I really want to be inspired by these adventurous, trailblazing women. I said I wild swim, I go on holiday by myself, but I wouldn't really call myself, only go on holiday by myself really in the UK. I wouldn't call myself very adventurous, but I definitely want to be more so, and I want to be inspired. So another one I'm really looking forward to reading. So those are all my kind of non-fiction nature books. I also asked for a fiction book. So last year I read My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which is about, the protagonist is, she basically wants to spend nearly a year just sleeping, just kind of avoiding dealing with things and just resting her body and mind. And sleep is something I'm really interested in. I can be a bit of an insomniac. When my anxiety flares up, I tend to sleep a lot less and get a lot less rest. And it's something I really try with various, like, body moisturisers and with candles and with music and what I read before I go to bed and what I drink and what I eat. I really am trying so much to get better sleep. This year is The Shapeless Unease, A Year of Not Sleeping by Samantha Harvey. So this is about a protagonist who also suffers from insomnia. So I'm really looking forward to reading this fiction book and seeing kind of how the theme she draws out, or how she uses kind of sleep as a metaphor for other things. And also I just really like the cover. It's beautiful. So that's fiction book I asked for from my mum. Another book that she got me is, I'm a historian. I'm really interested particularly in women and LGBTQ people's history. And I am quite fascinated between the interwar years, so the 30s, 20s and 30s, and how society was changing or being shaped, or the issues it was sort of confronting or dealing with. And I hadn't actually heard of this book, so it's so exciting my mum got it for me. Beautiful cover. This is Sarah Lonsdale's Rebel Women Between the Wars, Fearless Writers and Adventurers. It's a collection of stories of different women and how they carved a space for themselves in the incredibly patriarchal interwar years. And so yeah, my mum actually wrote inside, "To our very own rebel woman, Merry Christmas, all I love, Mum and Dad." She's so sweet. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to diving into that soon. The last two books I got this year are both larger, almost sort of coffee table books, and I don't particularly like buying these for myself because they're quite expensive and quite indulgent, I suppose. Yeah, I really need to work on, I think, my self-esteem a bit more and what I think I deserve. Another issue for another time. But the first of these coffee table sort of books that my mum got me, that I asked for, is The Bloomsbury Look by Wendy Hitchmoth. Sorry if I pronounced her name wrong. I think she was the curator or worked at Charleston, which is the country home of the sort of the Bloomsbury Group. If you don't know, the Bloomsbury Group were a group of radical, independent writers, artists, philosophical, political thinkers, interior designers, everything you name they sort of did. A group in the early 20th century. Most famously, Virginia Woolf, the writer, was part of the group. Her sister, Vanessa Bell. It's called the Bloomsbury Group because they met in Bloomsbury in London. That's where sort of founded the group. So yeah, I said Virginia Woolf, Vanessa Bell, her sister, the artist, Duncan Grant, the artist as well, amongst many others, but I won't go into it. This video is already over 20 minutes long. And the Bloomsbury Look, so she talks about the way that this group presented themselves, so the fashion that they wore, in photographs, in art, in interior design. So Charleston, it's beautiful. I've never been, but I really want to go. It's a museum now, and it's all, the interiors are all painted, even like the fireplaces, the walls, and these beautiful murals, mainly by Vanessa Bell and Duncan Grant. And so yeah, let me just show you a few images from the book. So it's, yeah, the fashion that they wore, the artwork they created, the interior design they were interested in. So Omega Dress is what was their workshop, the Omega workshop. So really iconic designs on some fashion there. And I love the group. I'm really interested in what they were talking about, but I love the design as well. And this, so if anybody follows me on Instagram, I'm obsessed with this print. So this was created by Duncan Grant, who I mentioned, who created this in the early 1930s. It's called Clouds, and I love it. So I've got quite a few cushions in this for my tent. They're indoors at the moment because this time of year, with the cold and the damp, I thought I'd bring them indoors. But I love this print, amongst others that him and Vanessa Bell designed. So yeah, that's a book I'm just going to dive into. I'll probably read sort of a few pages here or there. I really want to take my time to savour this during this year. And the last book, which really shows that I love English literature and I love books so much, is this. It's A Country House Library, written by Mark Purcell, who was the former curator of libraries and books at the National Trust where I work. And it looks at country house libraries in Britain and Ireland. And for me, whenever I visit an National Trust place, whether that's with work or just in my leisure time, libraries are usually my most favourite places to see where people sat and wrote and read and were inspired, what they read, what they're interested in. I think it can tell you so much about a person, their library. And on the front here, so this is Sissing Her. So Virginia Woolf, I mentioned earlier, her lover, Vita Sackville-West, this was her home. Vita Sackville-West, if you don't know, was a writer, a gardener, a critic, and there's some beautiful letters her and Virginia Woolf wrote to each other, beautiful love letters. And this is her, so at Sissinghurst, the incredible garden there that she and her husband designed, and this is her tower room, purely her space. It's her library, her study. I've very luckily, because I wrote a blog post for the National Trust Curators blog about this room, I've got to go with the amazing team there behind the scenes and look at the books, show what she was interested in, what she was reviewing. In the books, there's some various newspaper articles she's cut out. She, like me, loves to write in the margins, and I love in some of her gardening books she's got illustrations of potential designs for her garden and phrases or things she kind of underlined and was interested in planting. And yeah, and I just love, I want to discover more about, so this is not just National Trust libraries, other museums, and also private libraries as well, that you know, we just generally wouldn't have access to. So I'm really looking forward to, you know, it's a hefty book, but I'm going to take my time. And even just like the architecture of these spaces and how they were designed, and of course if there's like a secret door in a library, the furniture, the bindings of the books themselves, and there's just some incredible bindings and covers to the books. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. Is the last book I got for Christmas. So yeah, I hope you like that. These books really kind of sum up where I am at the moment, I think. Very little fiction, only a couple, and then mainly kind of romance fiction. A lot of books about kind of nature and mental health, some art history books of particular mainly sort of historic women that I'm really interested in or want to be inspired by and learn more about. And then also just that I love books generally, and I love libraries and those kind of spaces. So I think that's probably what my books say about me. So take care. I hope you guys had an okay Christmas as well as you could. And I hope 2021 for everyone is a sort of much more positive and healthy and happy year. And do take care of yourself and your mental health. I know January is, you know, the worst month, especially mid-January apparently is the time when a lot of people sort of contemplate hurting themselves or suicide. So yeah, I really hope, please, taking your time for your mental health as I am. I've had this week off to do some university work and to practice more meditation, read some more and chill out. So yeah, whatever way that you like to unwind and relax, I hope you get a chance to. I'm definitely going to try and upload once a week. I realise I haven't done Methylene Whites here. I haven't done any more reviews of these yet. I've just kind of talked about them a bit, and I'll be reviewing books I'm doing as we go along. If anybody has any requests for any kind of books they'd like me to talk about, yeah, so that's what I'll be doing. I'll be back soon. Speak to you soon. Bye guys. Bye.